Hello, welcome to One's the Force, the Stars podcast. My name's Phil, of course. I'm joined, as usual, by Dave and George for our Clone Wars breakdown. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello there.
Good evening.
And tonight's episode, of course, is a distant echo, but with a twist. So, of course, I've seen the animatics. Dave, of course, saw them a little while ago. George hasn't seen anything at all, which is kind of nice, so going through these first 4 episodes with that in mind. But before we crack into specific details of the episode, which we will cover, first impressions of the episode, guys.
I didn't mind it. I haven't gone back to rewatch it, which is a shame because I now have the great honor, and this is more important than the episode. I now have the great honor of watching Disney Plus at home, in our beds,
Indeed, we do.
In our kitchens, in the bathroom if you needed to. Do you mind if I just say it in case any listeners at one?
No, go.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So last week, we'll cover this on Wednesday.
Yep.
Disney Plus have launched their pre-order scheme for the UK. £50 covers you for 1 year, works out at £4 a year. A month, sorry, not £4 a year.
£4 a year? Like, oh, hell yeah.
We're all in.
And once you do it, you get your login. You get your email, you get your password, you've got a login. You're ready for day 1 on March 24th. Now, if you know what a VPN is, I'm not going to go into IT because I can't even tell you what it stands for. But if you just Google best VPNs for Disney Plus, it will come up with many VPNs. And basically, a VPN will tell the internet you're in another country when you're not. It's great when you're avoiding copyright laws, I guess, and other stuff that people would need it for. Anyway, if you go on a VPN, the best ones are paid for. Take a month trial, or put a £1 1 month pass on, whatever you want to do. Change your settings to America. And once you go onto the Disney Plus website, you are an American Disney Plus, and you can sign into your account that you've pre-ordered legally in the United Kingdom, and you can go on and create your account, create your avatar, do your watch list, watch everything, get prepared to watch everything. So we discovered this on Friday night, and it was a glorious Friday night.
Refunds and all plane tickets.
Yes, exactly. So from next week onwards, I'll be watching it in the pleasure of full HD. Dave, I know you're in this. Phil, we're still going to keep your time for a month, but luckily you've seen the animatronics.
Yes, I've seen the animatics, yes.
So
animatronics is slightly different.
like 120p, and then there's now what we have. But anyway, just before we break it down, anyone in Europe, I guess, that's got this pre-order option, that is the way to watch it legally. You know, there's no INL, it's purely legal.
Just a big shout out to Rural Farm Boy who's watching, who's a big supporter. I know of us on Twitter, just to say good evening. So good evening, sir.
Indeed.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Indeed. But yes, episode. Dave, go on. First thoughts.
I'm with George on this. It was an okay episode for me. I was kind of like about the whole thing. It's very much a continuation from last week. It's a very much shooty episode, so a lot of it is based around that. And them looking more for Echo and blasting the way through lots of droids is the majority of the episode. I think we get 2 big moments.
Yeah.
One that we knew was coming, and then the one that was an addition that was not in the animatic. It's a brand new scene.
Yep. I didn't even know about it at all. That was the thing. So for me, I've watched the animatic. I've watched it a few times, so of course I knew what was going into the episode. Great thing is, of course, so I end up watching the episode. I'm like, oh, I know this. Wait a second, I don't know this. So there's 2 parts. We are going to talk about that particular moment in a bit. Spoilers ahead, but then again, pre-warn if you're watching the show. Spoilers anyway. Cutting to later on the episode, talk about Echo. For me, that was one of the bigger parts I was looking forward to going into the episode. Was seeing that fully finalized and seeing it actually realized on the screen. And kind of seeing what they did with that. I also, it's just one of those things, seeing these episodes finally fully done, fully fleshed out is lovely to see anyway. And the audio is really good. The soundtrack is incredible. But we're going to talk about specific moments in this episode. First of all, it's an overall arc. They go to Skako Minor, find Echo, go home, job's done. It's kind of a very simple, job's not quite done, they need to go home first. But yeah, basically it's a very simple, we're in the middle of the story arc at the moment. There's still 2 episodes to go of this particular arc. So there's not a huge amount of meat on the bone because we're in the thick of it. This is what's going to happen. There's no ending to it yet. The interesting point more comes at the beginning. I've seen the episode before, but I haven't seen this moment. Dave, again, you've seen the animatic but a long time ago. George is the one that's really fresh on this one. So actually, I'm going to let you start, George, then I'll go Dave, and we'll finish up with me on thoughts on this particular moment. But George, do you want to walk us through what I'm talking about?
I will, but very briefly, I'm going to say, just as a side note, I'm with you on the middle point. This is minute 20 to 40 of 80. So we know what we're going to get. This is going to progress the story, but you're not yet going to reach that complication, the part where, get ready for the big finale, here's a plot twist. None of that. This is very much, we're still on our journey. We've now reached a point where next episode is going to really go into story-wise of it. Now, the moment I'm going to discuss with you guys is maybe one of my favorite Clone Wars moments, and I'm going to go on a little, not opposite, but a little passionate discussion about our Lord and Savior, Ewan McGregor. One of the best lines to me in the Revenge of the Sith, there are many great lines, but the one that always stuck with me was Anakin's the father, isn't he? Bow of the head. I'm so sorry. Now, that is a moment where you can look at that as many different things. Obi-Wan is not a dumb guy. He is, yes, the Jedi were naive, but he was not dumb. In episode 2, he's very much aware of Anakin and Padme when she gets knocked off the clone gunship. He can obviously tell he has an attachment. He's not going to say anything. Clone Wars definitely does a fantastic job of developing that. What this episode has done is, to me, reach that moment in episode 3 that Obi-Wan knows, but he's just not saying anything to protect Anakin. This is the new scene. Well, to me, it wasn't new. To me, I did not think this would be in episode 2, though, of Anakin having a conversation with Padme, and Rex is on the lookout to protect him. Now, it's very obvious Padme is pregnant. Anakin doesn't see it, whatever reason. It makes sense logically. She can't just be 9 months pregnant inside the space of 3 days, which was always one of my kind of issues of episode 3. But anyway, there's a great scene, and it didn't really much like, okay, here's Anakin and Padme scene. Great. But then it entirely changed when Obi-Wan rocks up. And Izzy asks, what does he say? What are the words? How's Padme?
Did you say hello to Padme for me?
That's the one. And that was a moment where I was like, oh, we're close to Revenge of the Sith, aren't we? There's a look from Anakin, but to me it was it builds up to that line, episode 3 of Anakin's the father, isn't he? Because, not that I'm going to sit here and criticize, people's choices in life, but for a senator in the Republic to be knocked up and no one know who the dad is, that would be, in this day and age, in current politics, that would be a scandal. And I'm not going to go into real life. My opinion's one. I don't care. It's irrelevant. But I always kind of thought, I was like, did they never ask her who the father was? Did it really take them for the death of the entire Jedi to clock on who the father was? That one Jedi that was always there for her, that lived with her. But it is what it is. But I just thought that moment was that was such a well done scene. It was so minute, so little. But it's one line, and it makes such an almighty difference to the scope of things. And it just really brought me back into, we're close to episode 3. We're not 3 years ago at the beginning of the Clone Wars. We're at the end of the Clone Wars, and that's what stuck with me.
I'm very much the same. I mean, I watched when I'd seen this episode. I went back and watched the animated. It'd be like, this wasn't in there. I didn't even recall. I mean, it'd been a while since I'd watched it, so I had gone back last time for the Bad Batch, kind of watched that, and then, I kind of remembered everything that I'd seen, but this didn't even click in my memory anyway. So you go back and you watch it, and it's so well played. James Arnold Taylor as Obi-Wan with Rex, and that awkward interaction of him trying he's just in there checking out my armor. So it was really nice, that interaction. But it is that moment of, you did tell Padme I said hello, didn't you? And it's the look. Anakin pauses for a second and looks over his shoulder, and it's that moment of realization, right, he knows. Rex knows. If Obi-Wan knows, who else knows? I'm thinking that maybe not everyone, but I would without a doubt think Yoda knows. Is just my throw. There's nothing that says that, but I've got to think if Obi-Wan knows that, Yoda would, not even being told, would sense that in just in the air, and the midi-chlorians themselves would let him know. So that's my feel. But the scene itself is so pivotal. If you do go back and watch the animatic, the only mention of Padme is actually, it's a really funny take that they're on the way into the ship of the Bad Batch, and they have an animated version of Padme legs out on the side of the ship. When Anakin asks about it, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's the Naboo senator. She can argue for me anytime." And literally, it finishes with Anakin walking the ship. Goes, "That is not staying on there." And it's a really nice and well played scene. But what they've replaced it with is so much better in the size of the story and what it means to Episode 3. So from being a lovely comedic moment, makes this such a bigger part of the overall saga, and it's absolutely my favorite scene of this episode, and it's one of my favorite. And it's what 40 seconds. One of my favorite moments in Clone Wars. It made me just like, oh, perfect.
So I'm going to comment out just here. We've had from Robin saying Obi-Wan didn't tell anyone. He kept it from everyone because of his experience with Satine.
Yeah,
which is a very interesting point. So George, go on now.
We discussed this on that big video we did. That kind of seems one of my favorite character introductions to this. It's got my favorite arcs of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think Obi-Wan is the epitome of a Jedi. If you were going to draw a Jedi Knight, you would draw Obi-Wan Kenobi. He does it by the book. He is wise. He is the perfect Jedi Knight. And obviously, the issue with that was that, of course, he picked being a Jedi over being Sabine. And it was very much when Sabine was introduced. I'd have all you had to do was say it. Obi-Wan has always known the creation of Sabine not only not grounded Obi-Wan, that made him more human, but it added to the dimension with Anakin of the comparisons that Obi-Wan was able to lose his attachment for the Jedi, which only furthers the Anakin-Padme connection. I think Sabine has always been a very interesting character. Not a plot device.
Sabine's that Mandalorian. He was never involved.
Sabine's a different character.
It's always getting mixed up. I've said that wrong. What it kind of, I've literally lost my thought. What it does with Anakin, it furthers his opinion of obviously what he wants to do, but I think it humanizes everyone. But she's a very good character, and she is a character, but I've always seen her as a plot device as well, to add to Anakin, to add to Obi-Wan, to add to their relationship. And I think it was a moment like that where I thought Obi-Wan's been in that situation, and I think, he's kind of playing it cool, he's fine with it. And I think, obviously, if Obi-Wan would have known she was pregnant, we did know we found out in Episode 3. But I've been very intrigued to see Obi-Wan finding out if they weren't at war. When Dave, you mentioned Yoda, that's a very interesting point, because jump ahead to Episode 3, Anakin's sitting there blabbing to Yoda, "Oh no, someone really close to me's died. I'm having dreams again, like when my mom died and she died." And Yoda's just sat there thinking, "I've never really liked this person." And he's envisioning someone close to him is going to die. And Yoda was probably sat thinking, "Oh, the end's coming soon." But again, how did he not clock on it was Padme.
Well, he didn't clock on to the fact that Palpatine was Darth Sidious, so it's kind of like how he doesn't clock onto a lot of things is kind of the interesting point. The Jedi don't clock onto a lot, but it's more that personal relationship with Anakin between Obi-Wan, that against that Warforged relationship as well, where they are at war together. You do tell people secrets. Yeah, you have friends that you'll tell things to that you don't tell anyone else. And it goes that bit further when you are in conflict and there is nowhere else to go. Who else are you going to speak to? Who else can you turn to? It's that kind of dynamic as well. So for me, to go talking about this moment though, going back to the animatics. So again, I did as Dave did, because I haven't rewatched it recently, but I rewatched it about a year or so ago, if not longer. So it's still kind of fresh in my memory. So when I watched the scene in my mind, I was watching it going, "This doesn't make sense. I don't remember this." Just as not the whole scene, but just the start of it. I was like, this is different. Where is the pin-up? Where is that? Because I love that moment in the animatic. I thought it was a very good comedic moment, that pin-up of that 1940 style fighter plane pin-up style of Padme. I thought it was a funny moment. It was an interesting moment. It was just a funny moment that I liked. I was looking forward just to seeing that again in the episode. But when this happened, I was curious to start off with what they've replaced it with, or what's different. Am I remembering it differently? And that's before I get into the context of what actually happened in the moment. The moment itself is interesting. Take out the actual conversation of Anakin and Padme for a second. It's also Rex's moment just before that, when he walks up and goes, "Here's the helmet," because he needs an excuse. He knows that if anyone comes up and asks, he goes, "Oh, Anakin's just checking the general's just checking over my gear. So when then he walks out, he chucks in the helmet just like he does when he walks out. But it's that moment of he gives it to him knowing he's going to need an excuse. In the original animatic scene, it's implied that Rex knows. This just out and out states it. Same with Obi-Wan. It's been always implied. Again, going back to what George said actually in our chat early in the day, talking about the moment in episode 2 where you have on Geonosis, where he senses something. He knows that the dynamic has changed. He doesn't maybe not know what at that particular point. And then going forward, fast forward to episode 3, it changes that moment so much. It now is that proper. It hits on another emotional level because you now know Obi-Wan not only knows what's going on, he now knows the even greater risk involved. And there's all that build up towards that. And then the conversation itself is interesting because when you have Anakin walk up saying he's late as it is, this isn't the first time he's checked in. So you're wondering how long this has been going on for and how long Rex is known for, how long Obi-Wan's known for. We know it does, then bring it closer to episode 3. And of course, that moment is nice. Bringing Catherine Trevor back to do Padme was lovely anyway. I loved the fact she was in the episode. I think hopefully she'll be in the rest of it. We'll see what the other arcs bring. We don't know yet. But it was a very interesting moment in terms of, again, the moment itself and also the end of it where you have the hologram. Our lovely picture that Dave's created for our thumbnail, which is that moment where the hands are touching. He may not be able to tell she's pregnant at that particular point or may not notice. I mean, he may go, she's put on a bit of weight. Doesn't want to say anything. It's his wife, for crying out loud. He knows he'll be in trouble if he says anything like that. But it's that moment, that touching moment where you can see they're so close but so far apart. It's the symbolism there, which I like. And it then does hit more. It is what it does for episode 3 is what a lot of things like this should do, which is if you watch just films, if you watch just the prequels and go, okay, he knows it's an emotional hit. Because you've seen the Clone Wars, it adds another layer of emotional to it. It doesn't need to be explained. You don't need to watch the Clone Wars to understand it, but it gives you a whole new level of appreciation for it. And by the end of it, my jaw was on the floor because I did not expect this to come. So for me, it was also lovely going, although I've seen this episode, I have not seen this moment. So it's a nice, fresh moment for me.
It's lovely that they are, even with having the animatics and the episodes pretty much done, that they've now gone back and are finding new things to add to them, which I think we might kind of get over the next couple of Bad Batch episodes. I think we will see changes made, that they've made changes in story, that they're now building towards the movie more, that they're heading towards episode 3. They know where they're going. So I think we will get that little touches here and there that are going to play into that story more than we had with the original animatics, which was still probably in their timeline a little bit away, further away from the end of the Clone Wars, maybe. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see what we get. And this was just, as I say, for me was the best moment of the entire episode. It really stood out as excellent writing without there being a lot said.
And it didn't linger on it. And I think that's what's important as well, that, how easy it would have been to, Anakin's staring. Let's, do that faint Imperial March theme that is heard very often across Clone Wars. I do love hearing it, but could have been easier for them to linger on it. Could have been easier for them to Anakin to question it. But one throwaway line, let's carry on, because this is the Bad Batch arc, not Revenge of the Sith or Order 66 or anything else. This is the Bad Batch. And that's what also makes me very excited for the upcoming episodes, because obviously I haven't seen any of the other episodes. But what I really hope they do, and this is a wild prediction, obviously when Padme sees Anakin in episode 3, she goes, I heard stories that you died. So I'm really intrigued to see if there's anything back and forth, but if there'll be an episode where, I don't know, they're under attack or he has to cut for transmission or anything. And I'm intrigued to see what they do, because I think now we know they're going to overlap with episode 3. I think they're going to delve deeper into the sort of the main episode storylines and whatnot. I think Order 66 we already know is going to be covered. To what extent we will find out. But I thought Throwline, it just made it a great addition. It didn't separate the Bad Batch from what's coming up, because obviously you guys have seen it, I haven't. Bad Batch was a 4-episode arc that was intended with another 50 episodes of Clone Wars coming after. Not it's 4 episodes of the final 12, and not let's just have 4 episodes that have got nothing to do with the final 8. So by weaving it in, adding a couple of dialogue here and there, I think it's going to go a real long way in sort of cementing this as a final season.
It's a really nice subtle tweak is what it is. They move the story along without having a full-on grind to a halt, let's move the story on moment. They've just a nice little insert into the episode that doesn't detract from the episode. I think it adds to it, and actually, in my opinion, from what they originally had, just because it adds on to it. But it helps it move that little time frame going, okay, instead of being, we have, as you said, I think it was 64 episodes, so another 60 episodes to go, to, okay, we've got to speed this up a little bit without having to rush everything. It's just a nice, small, subtle tweak. Going back to what we were talking about earlier in the episode, though, so then moving on from this, as we said, this is the 20 to 40 minutes of an 80-minute arc. So this has got the meat in it. This has got a lot of shooting, but it's also got a couple of pieces as well. We'll get onto the droids in a second, because I actually quite like the interaction between the natives of Skako Minor and the clones as well. It's not much. It was a nice little interaction where, Anakin, of course, is taken off, and they have to go again. Stealth mission. Don't kill anyone. No blasters. Try not to hurt people. And that interaction between Crosshair and Tech and the natives is kind of cool. But of course, though, they take him up, and you see Watson Boy, you see Trench. They get into the complex itself, and again they fight their way to find Echo. The whole interaction between Rex and the Bad Batch is played on again between the Regs and the kind of Bad Batch. Between themselves. So it's kind of, again, nice time. But when you get in there, they find Echo. Accidentally spoiled that for George before our last episode, which I didn't mean to. But what I loved, of course, is seeing this finally done. So when that chamber does open, you see Echo fall out of it, and it's all the mist, all the tendrils, or the bits of plug in, everything like that. To actually see it fully realized was fantastic. I mean, George, sorry for spoiling that part for you. However, what did you think when you actually watched it?
I kind of knew that it was going to be, you don't bring him back and think it's a maybe he might come back. It was always going to be a case of coming back. So I was intrigued because, someone mentioned last week it was like Arnim Zola in The Winter Soldier. It was a formula. We didn't know what it could be. You guys knew what it would be, but I didn't. And I was just intrigued to see how they would handle it, what they wanted to do 2 episodes in. And obviously we get the chamber, again, like the Winter Soldier, reminded me a lot of the Winter Soldier. And then when we get the reveal, I kind of thought it was pretty cool. It reminded me so much of Minority Report. If anyone's seen that, the Steven Spielberg one, there's like a bath where these people are all tubed up and they're like predicting stuff for the future. I loved that Echo was that, and obviously he was half a limb, half robot, metal legs. I'm intrigued by it. It wasn't, a massive. I'm happy he didn't look like a clone, because it would have been really cheap if, he's got a scratch. He's all right now. I like the fact that his memory was to a point where he was only thinking of the mission on the Citadel, not that he's consciously been doing this for years. So I think there's an interesting story there, and I'm intrigued to see how it gets developed in the next episode or 2. What made me more interesting was the actual Bad Batch, the 4 people, because I'm not a humongous fan of them. I wasn't keen on them last week. It was the kind of same again this week, where I get the concept, the idea. Personally, like Wrecker's one of those kind of characters where I just ignore. I'm not a fan of them.
I love Wrecker.
Not him, but like just that typical, like, here's the brawns of a Suicide Squad.
Yeah, but I like that. I mean, that's always how I
no,
feel,
exactly.
right?
It's sorry, like, I know it's more me because people do love that. But there's that scene when they all just turned on sort of Rex and Cody, and I just thought, what an absolute bunch of,
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I know that they've got different programming because they're not all fully there. That's why they're 99s and stuff like that. But part of me do think, like, they're still like clones. Like, they're still their brothers and stuff. And I get genetically there's some stuff wrong with them, but would that really make them assholes? Like, that's politely putting it. And I just have this vibe that, I get they're these, they're Bad Batch, they're bad MFs and stuff like that. But I just kind of started thinking, like, I really hope these guys all die at the end of episode 4. Like, I've reached this point. So you are too strong for your clone trooper army, my friends. It's time to go. I'm guessing they might not. I might be wrong, but I much prefer the concept of the Echo surviving storyline more so than it being chucked in with the Bad Batch. But that's just me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Dave's unfortunately still muted himself, so he has an opinion. I can see it. He's still speaking.
Sorry, yeah, I'm just, but no, I'm agree with George. I mean, the Bad Batch themselves, for me, weren't the main take from this episode. We kind of got the introduction to them in last week's episode. This week was very much that continuation of going around the characters and seeing what they could do. Obviously, we got a lot more from Tech this time with the, and I did quite like the language point with the actual visor where he was translating. I really liked the look of that and the way the tech was done. I thought it was really, really nice touch. I think George has got a point with how the special forces, and it's just literally come up on our comments as well. Special forces versus regular forces, they think they're special, and I kind of get that. But George is right. There's still no need for them kind of, especially to just go off on Rex, who, being a captain, is quite highly ranked, and you would think that would still hold some meaning to him, which apparently it doesn't. The then main crux of this became getting to Echo. I found a bit, once they got past the natives, I found a bit monotonous. I found if you watch the episode, and I've watched it twice, there's a lot of silence in the episode where there's not much being said. It's very much a shooty episode. So they're in a corridor and we're going to shoot lots of droids. Now we're in another corridor, we're shooting lots of droids. Anakin's in a corridor and he's slicing up some droids. Oh, look, we're surrounded by droids. We're going to kill all these droids. So that for me was kind of like, I can see you're building out these episodes and you need to get to this point.
I must admit, I think that is the flaw of the Disney Plus system where they're releasing it weeklies. You have an arc. This is quite clearly the middle. And if you watch it all as one go, as we have done, as we've all done, we've all binge watched it, it makes sense. Everything fits in. Everything has its place in those 4 episodes. This just, it misses that extra bit. You'd want to go, okay, here's episode 3, episode 4, here's the arc in a nice 80-minute chunk. I think that's kind of, it doesn't hurt the episode, but what it does, it just kind of goes, okay, what's next? I mean, yes, so by the time they get to Echo, it's all good. How they're going to get out is next week's episode. Of course, what will happen there, we'll see. But I understand your point, but I think it's caused by the flaw of releasing it weekly, even though it's nice to, not nice to binge all and go.
And I get that, and it just made me think. To Rebels' credit, when there was arcs in Rebels, and obviously this was written before Rebels, this episode, before obviously key changes. You didn't get a vibe on their arcs that they were so inseparable. I get that these are 4 episodes, they're 80 minutes, and I'm not blaming Disney Plus. I'm not blaming anyone for this. I just don't think this has worked as a 4-episode arc. I get they're spreading them out. Maybe what could have benefited Clone Wars was releasing 4 episodes at a time, gap of a couple of weeks. Next 4 episodes, we don't even know if 5 to 12 is an arc. It could be an 8-episode arc, could be a couple of individual episodes. I doubt it will be, but it just makes it very difficult to follow weekly, and it doesn't have that come back next time, grab you. And this isn't a criticism of it. This is the structure, and as Phil mentioned, we were so used to binging Clone Wars, but I'm not going to sit here saying the ratings back in 2012, but the ratings would be down. No, I mean, Clone Wars became the Clone Wars that we know after it was cancelled, when people were rioting, and it was doing well at the end, and more and more people were coming onto each season. But it's very difficult to watch it weekly. And can you have imagined season 5 doing those 4 droid episodes across 4 weeks? We
wouldn't have had it. Sure, we wouldn't have wouldn't. We'll wait.
I mean, and so the Star Wars fans, the ones that are now abusing authors on Twitter of books because they didn't rewrite the ending to a film. Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Wednesday's gonna be an interesting show.
It's just I don't know if the strategy's right. I mean, we've criticized Disney Plus a lot recently, because obviously they're gonna release Mandalorian weekly in England. Not if you've got a VPN, they won't. I don't know. I don't know if this is the arc because we're halfway through it, or I don't know. And I mean, I've said it to you guys, I've not rewatched episode 1 or 2, so I'm going to wait for the 4 episodes to come out to do them all, to spend an evening. Now I can do it in HD, that helps, definitely. Bad Batch, it just hasn't gripped me like I think it is. And again, it's not criticism of Clone Wars. It's because I've got my eyes set on the end game. I've got my eyes thinking Siege of Mandalore, Order 66, Siege of Mandalore, Order 66, and I'm sat here like, we've got a Bad Batch. It's not that. It's the same as Rebels, you know. None of us cared about the first part of season. No, not still season 3. It was after the Christmas break. We're like, we don't care about your right. Give us the Maul and Kenobi. I'm kind of in that vibe again. It's no one's fault but my own. But there wasn't much. I mean, what I will say, the animation on the action was great. There was the Anakin Force push, and it looked like there was actual physics to them falling over. I loved the animation side, but yeah, it was just. I get this the middle of a bit. There's just so much action, and it was just a scene by scene action. Maybe have one big. Like the last episode, I had that one great action scene of here's the instruction to all 4 of them doing what they do in fights, and here's them slowly taking land. This one just felt like the sort of the video game. Like you've done here's level 1, here's level 2, here's level 3, and now we're back to kind of where we started. Now it's time to get out of the building. So I'm intrigued what happens with 3, but 2 just not gripped me in the way I wanted it to. And knowing that Echo's alive, it lowers the stakes because we knew he would come back, not because we'll spoil it, but we just knew he would because the idea of bringing him back.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
I did love the actual reveal, though. I loved when they got into the chamber and it had that Steve Rogers-esque from in that capsule that he was inside of. And when they pulled down the levers and the doors cracked open and he just fell forward out of it, just like you might have expected him kind of held up and kind of strapped in sort of upright, from to then lurch forward like this dead body coming out of there was a really, really nice moment. I know it was in the animation, but it was the way it was animated and the look of him and the bits that were missing. Such a nice moment. You can see obviously he was damaged from the explosion that they did think killed him. To then have that, I thought it was really well done moment, really, really nice looking moment.
What it shows though is that side of the droids of lack of care for organics. It's just they put him in, he's done. It's we've made him work. Let's just put him to work. That's all it is. There's no. So when if it was someone caring, then it would be strapped in, make sure he's secure, make sure he's not going away. They know he's not going away. They don't care. They just chucked him in there. As long as the system works, that's all they care about. They only care about the algorithm. So now he's out. How they're going to get out is the question. I know what you mean by lowering the stakes, but again, it's that unfortunate. When it comes to the Clone Wars, it always was supposed to be that kind of war newsreel style. Here's your introduction, here's your 20 minutes, but it's part of a longer arc because wars tend to drag on. That's how it works. Whereas Rebels works better because I think it's the structuring is different, the framing is different, and as you said, when you had an arc, they could be watched separately. So some parts where okay, it's a 2-parter, you need that second part, but they ended it more on there was no stakes. Here's your there is no the cliffhanger is a real cliffhanger. You don't know who will make it. There is no guarantee. Whereas with the Clone Wars, you do know where the end spot is, but there are certain characters and certain things we haven't got to yet that we can't yet kind of trace. So we're interested to see kind of how that will all go.
And I am intrigued to see the remainder of this arc, but like George, I am very much waiting to get to that Siege of Mandalore arc. That is where my main focus on this. I don't know what we're getting between. I think what we'll see is a split over these films where we'll just get 3 arcs of this. And I think we'll get another arc next, and then we'll get the final Siege of Mandalore arc is the way I think it'll go. I can't see, like George, I can't see an individual episode creeping in anywhere. It'll all be now.
I can see 8 episodes. I think it's literally going to be like, here is an 8-episode series. Here's a couple of Mandalores. Here's not an epilogue, but I'm guessing we're going to have to see how Captain Rex and his mates ended up piloting the AT-AT. I'm not expecting goodbye Chewbacca, goodbye Tarth, or I'm off to Dagobah. Obviously there's the chips that might have to be removed. There's a lot that's going to happen, which I don't think I've said this last week as well. There's a lot they're not showing us. They're very smart with how they've advertised this. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited to get to the end of Bad Batch because I'm intrigued in the Echo and Rex storyline and how they're going to get to their end game and what
I think the only maybe potentially individual episode will be that introduction to Ahsoka, reintroduction to Ahsoka, I should say. I think that may be your one kind of, not so much individual, but that one kind of episode where it's like, okay, we need to reintroduce the character. It will be part of a larger arc, but you're going to have to kind of get through this episode first. I think maybe a one episode.
I reckon you're just going to be a Mandalore. I've just got this vibe.
I think I'd really enjoy that. I think it'd be nice to take that, but I do think we get something else between somehow. Just
maybe forgetting the clips and trailers we had tail end of last year.
I kept away from the trailers, so that may be why. Except Ray Park playing more again.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be incredible for us.
Yes.
Can I just say as well, while we're talking, not while we're talking about it, but the look of this, the animation, the new look on Obi-Wan, the new animation on him just looked incredible. Just the change in these from Series 6 to where we are now, the character models have come on so far. I thought the Obi-Wan was absolutely exceptional.
Oh yeah, I mean we talked about this in our episode last time out when we were talking about the comparison between 5 and 6, or between 6 and 7 really. But yeah, the animation on Obi-Wan's face and Anakin's face, the hair and things like that, it has come on leaps and bounds. It does look incredible, which is why when it got to that scene of Echo falling out, we're actually going to bring up something we had in the comments here. So when it does come out, it does look incredible. And actually, yes, it is. So go back to the comments. Talk about when Echo comes out of it, he still thinks he's under attack at the Citadel. Emotionally, that's a heavy hitter as well. It's incredible what they've done. Again, it didn't linger on it. It could have been a lot more PTSD style. You to shake out of it, Trooper. It was a case of he was there for a few seconds before realizing, hang on a second, where am I? What are we doing? What do we? Okay, what's the mission? You see Captain Rex recognizes what's going on, listens, and we're done. So there's a small moment, but again, this episode has had 2 moments that were subtly put in, really well done, really well told, around lots of shooting.
Yeah, absolutely, and I hope we get more of the better. I think it's just coming out comments as well that we're getting Ahsoka's walkabout before Mandalore, and that is obviously her between the Siege of Mandalore and where she went after she left the Jedi Order, which I would be interested in seeing, but because we know she goes down into Deep Dark Coruscant.
Yeah, the other bit I want to bring up, actually, we just had in the comments as well, it's a very interesting one here from Rofran saying Anakin and Obi-Wan aren't wearing armor now either, which is actually true. I think in the animatic they were. I can't remember exactly. I don't go back and double check.
I think no, they absolutely are. I think it's just now to bring it more in line with exactly how they look
in episode 3. So again, that's a very subtle change that I didn't notice. So good spot there. But again, subtly moving the timeline forward without explicitly stating we're moving the timeline forward, which is a great way of doing things.
Really is. That they've moved on from being the generals of the war and they're just now back to their Jedi garb. It's a really nice touch.
It's subtle yet good. But yes, so in terms of Ahsoka, yes, we will get a bit before Mandalore, but I think it's going to be maybe half of an episode. And by the end of the episode, you'll then have at the end of it going, right, here's the Siege of Mandalore, here's Rex, here's where we're going from here. But we're interested to see where we go from here. But gentlemen, any other further thoughts on the episode itself?
No, just that for me, it was an okay episode. It was an okay episode with 2 great moments in it, which were moments that moved the story and added to what I already know of Star Wars. So that makes it a really good episode for me. But the rest of it, I did get a bit bored by the shooty of it. But yeah, I'm still happy. Bring on the next episode. I can't wait to watch it.
Indeed. George, anything else to add? You think we're all good there?
I'm pretty much all good. I've said anything I've got to say. I'm just waiting for Friday very patiently. Because I think, by the end of episode 3, we're going to be pumped for episode 4. So that's the way it always works. Very intrigued to see what comes next. And it's amazing. It went really quick. When you guys text me like, Clone Wars tomorrow, I was like, oh, it's been a week already.
Yeah, has indeed. Although, on that front, though, we also have our episode on Wednesday, which we will have an awful lot to talk about. It's going to be
a lot of ranting.
There will be lots of ranting, yeah.
There will be a few rants.
Mine about high eras and nonsense like that.
Hey.
It's going to be very fun when I sit there moaning, and then I proceed to moan about Star Wars fans that moan. But no, it's going to be good. It's going to be not as lively as you actually think, but I'm very intrigued.
But yeah, so again, just before we do close out, I just want to say thank you again for everyone who's joined on live with us doing this. Thank you so much for being part of this and being in the comments and chatting amongst that. So it's really nice to have you along for episodes as well, especially these Clone Wars ones where there's stuff to discuss.
Indeed it is. So, all I have to say is thank you so much. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Wonders of the Force and Star Wars Podcast, at The Force Podcast. You can find the video for this later on our YouTube and Facebook pages. And, of course, the audio will be available at all of our usual spots, being Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. Our merchandise, of course, is in the link in the description down below. But until next time, we've been Wonders of the Force. May the Force be with you. Good night.